to the Bob Duco Show as we work our way through this Thursday afternoon together. Okay, as you know, we've talked about this on the show many times. You know, I'm a huge gun advocate, and I believe in concealed carry. I believe in gun ownership. I'm a gun owner. And this election where Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton, gun owners in this country, I mean, we seriously dodged a bullet, no pun intended, here, because I want to remind everybody that the Heller case out of Washington, D.C., the Heller case suggested that the Second Amendment did not grant constitutional rights to individuals to own guns. And so if the Heller case had been lost, then we would have lost our constitutional right to own guns. And thankfully, the Supreme Court sided with gun owners in this case and sided with the Second Amendment. But listen, it was only a 5-4 vote, folks, a 5-4 vote. So I'm very thankful that Hillary Clinton is not the one replacing Antonin Scalia. But what happens now, going forward? We're going to talk about the reciprocity, concealed carry reciprocity, and this new Hudson Bill, what this would mean, and would Donald Trump sign it, and what this would mean for gun owners in America and concealed carry rights, with Larry Pratt. He's Executive Director Emeritus of Gun Owners of America, the second largest gun rights organization in the country, over 1 million members. Larry Pratt joins me now. Larry, always a pleasure. Thanks for being with us today.
It's always a pleasure to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir. All right, first of all, before we get to the reciprocity bill, I kind of made a bad pun here, but we really did dodge a bullet with this election regarding the Heller case, because if Hillary Clinton replaced Antonin Scalia with a liberal, it's not exaggerating to say that we would ultimately, probably in the next couple of years, lose our constitutional right to own guns.
We might have lost the constitutional right, and I think that's a very major concern, and it's one based in a lot of good reason to have that view. As a matter of actual fact, the right is not something that is given by the Constitution. It's recognized, it's protected by the Constitution, but we've had so much discussion for so long by so many judges and politicians that say that the right is a creation of the Constitution and or the politicians, that we would have been facing headwinds. Even if it was an artificial wind, it still would have been a tougher road to hoe. And I'm glad that we are looking at the likelihood of a more friendly judiciary in the years to come. Hadn't happened yet, but I think on this issue, Trump does seem to have some pretty solid convictions, and hopefully that's going to be what we see.
Well, now that brings us into the case of concealed carry. Concealed carry tends to be something handled at a statewide or a local level, and there's an effort to basically grant a national concealed carry. Explain this reciprocity bill, and specifically this new Hudson bill that is being pushed right now.
Well, the constitutional premise of the bill is Article 4, which says that states must recognize the acts of other states, so that for some time, I think most Americans are familiar with the idea that if you have a Virginia driver's license, where I am, and you want to drive to Michigan, if you have that Virginia driver's license, you're good to go. The speed limits may be different along the way, and when I get to Michigan, and maybe there's a certain difference in the doctrine on turn on red. So having to observe those local differences, fine, that has been understood also. But the fact of the matter is, no state could tell me, you can't drive here unless you get one of our state driver's licenses. And that's the theory behind the national recognition bill that would say your concealed carry permit in Virginia will be recognized in Michigan, same as your driver's license, or in any other state. And of course, where heads start to explode on the liberal side is, what if you go to a convention in New York City, and this is law of the land, and you take your Second Amendment protection device along with you. If it ever became an issue and you've got that permit back home, then you're good to go. That drives some of the control freaks crazy. And of course, in Chicago, we know how well all their gun control has done for them. One of the safest cities in the country, right?
Right.
Well, not really so much.
Right.
So I think in fact, I've wondered what would happen if San Francisco, which is a particularly anti-Second Amendment place, what if they had a cattleman convention, which is at least theoretically possible. Those guys and gals would primarily come from states where putting on a firearm pretty much is part of getting dressed.
Right.
And all of a sudden they go to a place where that's not well received. Well, if they went with a concealed carry permit from their home state, there wouldn't be a thing those California control freaks could do about it. And frankly, crime could conceivably go down quite a bit, at least in the neighborhood around those hotels.
You know what I'm curious about, Larry? And this is probably an unfair question because I'm going to try to turn you into a psychologist right now. But I'm trying to figure out what the motivation is of the anti-gun zealots who push things like gun-free zones and we don't want concealed carry here, and we're not going to serve we won't even serve police officers if they come in here with guns on their hips or whatever. What drives it? Because they have to know these are smart people. They can see the numbers. There's a certain common sense to the fact that if a gunman or a terrorist or a mass murderer or anybody like that comes into a movie theater or any place else and starts mowing people down, it doesn't take a lot of brain power to figure out that if there's someone who's licensed and trained in firearms that's equipped to take that person out, that less people are going to die. So what possible reason do they have for pushing the anti-gun, anti-concealed carry and gun-free zone message?
Well, I've had these very discussions with people on the other side, and you can point out to them something that I think is particularly salient, that with the exception of 4 mass murders in our country, all since 1950 have occurred in gun-free zones.
Right.
So clearly one of the most dangerous places you can be statistically is a, quote, gun-free zone. So you point that out in your discussion with Mr. Anti-concealed carry, Mr. Anti, maybe Second Amendment even, and when they are presented with the fact that you actually are safer not in a gun-free zone, they say, well, I just feel safer. I don't feel safe knowing that somebody around me might have a gun. And as you've already indicated, this way of thinking has now gone to the extreme that at least in one case, a police officer was refused service because he was carrying a gun.
Right.
And so we're dealing, I think, at the end of the day, and I realize I'm not a psychologist, so I can't completely answer your question, but my assumption has been, after having dealt with these feeling answers, is that there really are people, a lot of people in our country, who quite legitimately think in terms of feeling, and they kind of ignore what many of the rest of us at least try to do on a good day, which is to marshal facts in a logical sequence. And if the logic or the facts don't stack up right, then we hopefully on a good day will say, where did I make my mistake? And try to get to the bottom of it. So there's a real difference in the manner of thinking, and I think that may partially at least explain or be an answer to the question that you ask about why do they do this?
Yeah. Well, you know what? Ultimately, I want less people to die in these kind of horrible attacks, as I know you do too. And if there's someone, if I'm in a place with my family and somebody comes in there who's either a terrorist or a mass murderer or just some sicko or whatever,
right.
I'd like to think that there's somebody in that room that's carrying and licensed and trained that can stop that person before they kill however many people they're able to kill until police finally get there.
You've got to keep in mind, you've got about 5 to 7 minutes if the police are in the same
And it's no slight on the police. They're getting there as quickly as they can, but this isn't Star Trek. They can't beam in there, okay? They have to physically drive.
Yes.
So, all right, folks, it's Gun Owners of America on the web at gunowners.org. Their Executive Director Emeritus, Larry Pratt. Larry, it's always a pleasure. We certainly appreciate the work you folks do at Gun Owners of America, and always appreciate your time with us. Thanks a lot. Have a very Merry Christmas, too.
And appreciate being on your microphone this Christmas season. God bless you all.
Hey, you bet, Larry. Take care. You're listening to The Bob Duco Show.